What I did is I was on a motorcycle, car turned into my lane, and I avoided the front because there's a small kid that was in the front seat. And so I had to, instead of just belling on the bike, which is normally what you do in that situation, I had to make sure the bike wouldn't slam into that, that kid in the front seat. So I didn't come out of that so well. But I totaled the car, nearly totaled myself in the process. But the physical trauma and the pain and limitations I had after that, I thought would never go away. I thought I'd always live in a state where I couldn't raise my hands over my head, or I always had a limp, or there'd be some kind of physical limitation. After my divorce several years ago, I was in this deep, angry depression, if you can imagine that. Anybody that's been through, some of the things that like a bad divorce, breakup, job loss, there's this anger that comes out because it feels like, this thing happened to you, and it's out of your control, nothing you do. Well, in a divorce, it's clearly some things you can do because it's two people in there. We both have to accept responsibility for that particular thing happening. But in the beginning, unless you're just this enlightened creature, and if you're that, you probably wouldn't get divorced anyway. But in the beginning, it feels like, oh, all this stuff's happening. And that angry, sad depression that I was in afterwards, I thought I'd never get out of that. I thought I'd always feel that way. And that the once, enthusiastic, hopeful person that I was before, that person was gone, or would just be less. If you can think that you're watching a movie, not in the movie, watching the movie, then you're not actually emotionally involved. Yeah, you care about what's happening to those characters, but you're not attached to it on an emotional level. And if you can pull yourself out of that emotional state and look at this person and what they're going through, then you can become an observer of this person. And yes, you'll feel strongly for them, and you'll feel like, oh gosh, I want to help, I want to do what I can, but it brings some rationality to you as the observer versus the person that's living in the turmoil. Those instances in my life, the physical incapacitations from the accident, the divorce, money issues that I've had in my past, I may have in the future, who knows? Nobody knows where life's going to go. They all ended. Like, I'm not busted up anymore. I mean, I can lift my arms, I can do pretty much anything I want to. I'm in better physical shape today than I've ever been in my life, ever. And coming out of that depression, it was like I thought that's how it would always be. But guess what? I'm not there today. I'm not broke today. I may be broke tomorrow. I've been broke in the past, but that didn't last either. So the first thing we have to understand is that wherever we are today is not going to stay that way unless we choose for it to stay that way. If you're in a place that you cannot stand, if you're in a sad, mad, whatever it is, like I've been in the past several times, you can choose to stay there. You can choose to stay angry. You can choose to stay sad. You can choose to hate people and hate life and cuss the world and cuss our political politicians and whatever anybody is doing. You can whatever you can cuss this stupid virus that's running around and causing all kind of economic havoc, or you can choose something differently. And that's ultimately the first part of the 5-step process that I do to really overcome and achieve any goal that I have. Is you have to first decide. You have to decide that where I am right now, where you are right now, is not where you want to be, and you want to be somewhere better. And I always have this hope and optimism and drive to be better. Even when I've been on top. I've been on top. I'm not there now, but I've been on top, and it's like everything's going right. And I'm still like, okay, well, what's next? What's better? What's more challenging? And oftentimes that'll bring me back down a little bit. But that's learning, and that's part of the ride. If everything was good all the time, then it wouldn't be interesting. It's overcoming those challenges and those hurdles and achieving those goals that really drives me to do anything. If I'm just sitting on a beach all day long, I might as well just offer myself. Don't get me wrong, I like the beach, but I have to be doing something. I have to have I have to have something driving, some larger purpose. And this part of my life is doing these videos, writing these books, because I feel like I have a higher purpose in helping people that may be like me and may have gone through the same things like me. So the first step is to decide. See, Google's here too. She's decided to join this conversation. So you decide that you want something better. Then you set that goal. You can't set the goal before, because if you set the goal when you're in an emotional state, then that emotional state is going to be attached to that goal. You understand? If you're sad and you're mad and you're like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to achieve that thing. Well, that's going to hover over that goal the whole time you're trying to achieve it. And if it's anger, then every time you go to reach that goal, go to work on that goal, you're going to be angry. And maybe that works. Maybe maybe some of that, maybe you're trying to get some physical strength, and that anger really pumps you up and gets you going. I don't know. But you first need to decide that you want something different, and that'll bring a different mood. That'll bring in some optimism and hope that you can actually reach that thing. So once you decide, you're like, okay, I'm going to decide I want something better. And then I'm going to set that goal when I'm in a better mood, when I've got a better emotional state. And then I've got this big goal, whatever that big goal is. And in a case when I was all busted up from that accident, I set that goal of regaining my physical abilities that I had before the accident. And I was doing pretty good then. I was in the gym all the time, and I was eating well. Well, I was eating well considering what I knew at the time. I ate considerably different than I did 15 years ago. But I set that goal. But I couldn't just go from, I'm going to decide to do it, and then I'm there. I can't just do that. There was way too much. I mean, at the time, I couldn't even do this. I couldn't get my hands. That was about as far as I could go to begin with. And so I set many goals. The first goal I set was, I want to raise my hands over my head. That was it. That was the only thing I worked on for so long. And as I started progressing with that a little bit, I added some more goals, like walking straight or walking at all. Because my whole right leg was busted up. I had this knee. It was huge. I didn't damage anything severely in there. It was just huge and swollen. It was gross. So I had these two really concurrent goals, and I added some in between. But basically what happened was, I said, I want to raise my hands over my head. That was the first step of achieving my physical abilities. And then that was step 3. Step 4 is doing it. Bam, I'm there. It took like a month, 2 months, however long it took for me to get there. And then I immediately step into that next goal, which is adding weight. Bam. See, progression, little mini goals. You got to do it. You got a 5-step process. First you have to decide. Then outside of a strong emotional state, set your main goal. Break that main goal up into mini goals. Super, if you have to, in my depressed state at the time, I had to go super easy. I had to make sure that I could achieve that thing. I couldn't say my mini goal is to squat 400 pounds. That's not what happened. Because I couldn't even start to get up off the couch, much less put weight on the thing. You got to do something achievable. And when I did that, I was like, yeah, I did that. I did that goal. And then I moved right into the next one, just adding weight to it. And this was a process. And now I'm, it took me a while. It took me a while to regain, but I got this process, and I got it down so well. And I started achieving and setting and achieving these little goals that I surpassed where I was physically before. I completely surpassed it. And I still had injuries. I still had broken feet, the ramifications of that. I still got fingers that don't work, and still got pops and snaps. But I overachieved my goals. And it's not really that I overachieved my goals. It's just as I was progressing, I reset the bar each time. And you'll realize that you always believe that you can do less than you actually can. There's someone said, Bill Gates or somebody, I've heard it from a bunch of different people, that you underestimate what you can do, overestimate what you can do in a year, and underestimate what you can do in 10 or 5 or however many years it is. I think we always underestimate what we can do. I think it's in our brains, it's in our wiring that failure is bad. And so even if we're high achievers and we're ambitious and we're audacious and we say, I'm going to do this great thing, we're going to set it there, but I know we can do it there. I don't even know if my hand's in the screen. I know we can. And with that attitude, it's the same. You can do 5 more. If you're doing push-ups and you got a whole bunch of them, you can always do 5 more. In the gym, there's always room for 5 more reps, or at least 1 more rep if you're maxing. So there you are, 5 steps to overcoming any challenge. Decide. Set your goal unemotionally. Break into mini goals. Achieve your first mini goal. Step right into your next mini goal.